There's not a lot of Jews cowboying or even ranching right now that I know of, not in this area. My uncles, Saul and Al, they moved out west. They got a ranch here in Petaluma right around the time of the Second World War. Uncle Saul loved his cattle, he loved his chickens, his goats, and just loved the land. He just really inspired me in a lot of ways. This is a song I wrote for my Uncle Saul. Him and his brother Al were the first of our family to come out west here and get in the chicken business. He came here from East Europe early in his life. He was in Chicago when he took a wife. Then he went out west to buy some California land, and on this little ranch was where he made their future plans. I was rather young, but I remember well seeing his cattle grazing behind the barn upon the hill. The battered chicken houses, the green hills in the spring, the gold hills in the summer, and the songs the wind would sing. So remember the land and your tough calloused hands, and cutting down the hay for spring would end. Remember your fears, the joys and the tears, and the hay fields blowing in the wind. Even when I was a little kid, I was always walking around wearing a cowboy hat, and I guess, of course, back then it was all just romanticized. I didn't know what it entailed. Dad and Ma ran a few head of cattle when we were little. The only work I've ever done, aside from playing a little music, was working on ranches. I've always loved the land. Since I was, just tiny, I knew I was going to be on a ranch someday, somewhere, some kind of ranch. I worked on a chicken ranch to start, and then I worked in the orchards. And I sheared sheep a couple of years, and after that second season of shearing sheep, I told the guys on the crew, I says, once I'm done here, I'm going to go up to Oregon and I'm going to be a cowboy. I says, I'm not going to do this anymore. I've played music in Seattle, down to Galveston Bay. I've seen a lot of good pickers, Lord, they sure could sing and play. I've heard rock and pop and classical played as pretty as can be. But out here in California, we play it country. So you can disco down in Dallas, or play them good old Chicago blues. Sing them pop tunes out of Nashville, Tennessee. But once you've reached the San Joaquin, it's different here, you'll see. 'Cause out here in California, we play it country.
Every season's different. Like this time of year calving, you just go to each ranch and check the cows, see if there's anything that, like a cow that might be having trouble having a baby. Then you bring her in and pull the baby out. In the early winter, late winter, we start marking calves. And that means castrating, dehorn ones that have horns, and then vaccinate. And that's why I kid around. I'm the surgeon. I'm the guy that does the castrating. So I kid around people and say I'm a mohel for these calves.
I like working alone a lot. It really hones your skills down because you can't rely on someone else to pick up the slack. Like going out and doctoring sick cattle, where some ranches send out 2 guys so they can head and heel the cattle, which is nice. You know, rope the head and one guy ropes the heels, and it makes it easier. But I'm by myself and I have to doctor. I've had to learn some good ways of doing it, and it's just really forced me to become a better hand. I've had complete respect from people. People I work for now treat me just like family. I remember one time, though, I was working down at the auction yard, and I went to saddle up our horses for the afternoon, and I had my last rope, in my hand. Oh, I didn't know anyone was looking around. I started doing some tricks, and this old guy was watching. And he says, "What are you, Mexican?" Because the Mexicans have the stereotype as being, great ropers. That's where I learned it from. And I said, "No, I'm a Jew." He says, "The hell you are. There ain't no Jew can handle a rope like that." I didn't know Jews were religious until I got older. We felt so Jewish, but the thought of a bar mitzvah, I didn't ever had a bar mitzvah. For Hanukkah, Dad would read the story about, the Maccabees and all that, but the story was told as not as a religious holiday. It was the day our people won our independence from the Roman Syrians. I know there's Jews, obviously, that aren't all left-wing, but to me, that's part of it, to be real class-conscious, to care about the people that don't have. That's very Jewish. To me, working on a ranch was very Jewish, because that's what I grew up seeing, ranchers, with the chickens and with cattle and stuff. My grandparents were definitely not Zionists. They were socialists or communists. Most cowboys identify with the ranchers a lot, but they're business people. I believe that as a Jew, as an American, I'm part of the working class. The social justice songs and the Yiddish songs, I remember singing and hearing them when I was real little. The old stories that I heard always meant so much to me, life in the old country.
Hast du was zu kein? Kennt dir euch, hast du zu leihen? Keiner lebt nicht, keiner gibt kein Orbis. Ich bin a Schuster, geh ich kacke Borbis. Bin ich mir a Schneiderl, bin ich mir a Schusterl. Leb ich mir Tag ois Tag ein, lustig freilich sein. Leb ich mir Tag ois Tag ein, lustig freilich sein.
Well, I write songs and I perform other people's songs too, and of course the old Yiddish songs. They talked about life in the shtetl, they talk about life on a collective farm. I go through a little culture shock in between, doing Jewish songs in the morning and in the evening doing cowboy and country western. It's confusing sometimes to figure out where I belong, but I guess either place will work.
Der Elbow liegt gebunden mit der Strick. Euch in Himmel fliegt der Schwelbel. Dreht sich ein und zurück. Lacht der Wind in Choren. Lacht und lacht und lacht. Lacht op a Tage ganzen mit der halben Nacht.
My mother and my grandmother on my mother's side, they taught me a lot of the Yiddish songs. They worked me hard at it. They wanted to make sure that I'd learn the songs and be able to keep them alive. I'm real glad they did. I'd like to have my daughter Leah interested in it and have her carry on. She was interested in the guitar the other night. She wanted to play it, and she even cut her nails for it. I talked to her some in Yiddish, you know, in my crummy Yiddish, but and singing her the songs and telling her the stories that I was told.
Saddle them up.
I don't believe this thing, you know, the Jewish law. If the mother's Jewish, then the kid is Jewish. She's half Jewish. Her mother wasn't Jewish, but I'm a Jew, so she's half Jewish to me. What is the other blood in her veins? I mean, what are you going to say it is?
Before our divorce, when she was a little baby,
I take her with me, and I put on her little hard hat, and I carried a little bag of Cheerios and a bottle of water in my saddlebags. And she'd go off with me. We'd go all morning long checking cattle. That's all you kid her around, say she was practically born in the saddle. We'd go camping, me and Leah, you know, we'll just go down by the creek or something and go camping, and she gets to learn about animals and learn about life. I just think it's a great opportunity for a kid to be raised this way, and I'm real lucky to be able to offer it to my daughter.
Well, the first part of this song is pretty much autobiographical to some degree, to most of the degree, and the second part of the song is all fantasy. So I'll let you know when the switch comes if you don't notice. You probably will. It wasn't very long ago, maybe 7 years or so, this cowboy friend of mine, he fell in love, that would be me, with a girl who had the bluest eyes, blue as the ocean and the sky, and they sparkled just like the stars above. He doted on her every day, and I guess in her own way she tried to love him the best way that she could. But days on a ranch can sure get long, whether things go good or things go wrong. Still he always did his best to treat her good. She could never really understand just how much he loved the land. She told him to get a job in town instead. She said cowboying's just a waste of time, and I'm getting tired of wasting mine. And she told him what her mother once had said. It's just as easy to marry a rich man as a poor man, and if punching cattle's all you want to do, you'll never get ahead, and you'll barely keep us fed. So don't expect me to be sticking around with you. Here comes the fantasy part now. It wasn't very hard to see that there was some chemistry between them as they rode along all day. And as they rode home in the moonlight, with the stars a shining bright, she smiled, and this is what she had to say. It's just as easy to marry a rich man as a poor man, but sometimes poor is richer than you know. To find a heart that's true and a man who'll truly love you is worth more than any silver and gold. And they lived happily ever after, so I'm told. Thank you.
It's hard to meet nice Jewish girls, you know, and this lady, she's in the business of making matches, and I sent a picture, see what she can do. Sometimes the old traditions come back to go see a matchmaker. Shatkin. I felt really proud that I was working the land as a Jew. I kind of felt that I was following in the footsteps of my uncles and my dad and Ma. Even though it's not chicken ranching, I feel like I'm keeping part of the tradition alive. I'm involved in agriculture too, just like my forebears were. That makes me feel good. Now July is half over, and harvest has begun. Working long hours for little pay in the hot, hot sun. My life ain't always easy, but I am what I wanna be. And sometimes I'll smile and think a while about what my father said to me. You have to do what feels right for you when you grow to be a man. Whether you learn to be a doctor or working on the land, just find what makes you happy and do what you want to do. And treat other people as you'd like to be treated, and I'll always be proud of you. Yes, treat other people as you'd like to be treated, and I'll always be proud of you.
Thank you, folks. When you're poor, you eat a lot of potatoes. And I remember this song my grandma taught me. It's called Zuntig Bulbis. And that means Sunday potatoes. But it means just like constantly potatoes, potatoes, potatoes. So this is what that song's about. Bulbis, wieder Bulbis, noch einmal und ober einmal Bulbis, heint und morgen Bulbis, Schabbos in den Oven a Bulbekugele, Sonntag weiter Bulbis, einmal in den Oven a Bulbekugele, Sonntag weiter Bulbis. Sonntag Bulbis, Montag Bulbis, Dienstag und Mittwoch Bulbis, Donnerstag und Freitag Bulbis, Schabbos in den Oven a Bulbekugele, Sonntag weiter Bulbis, Schabbos in den Oven a Bulbekugele, Sonntag weiter Bulbis. Thank you very much.